Good morning, everyone. Just getting a last-minute instruction on the clicker here. Before we start, a quick question. When was the first university? There's some higher ed folk here, right? Yes, sir. Thank you. Timbuktu is a very good one. Probably, well, it may be true. Why should I have the answer here? But I was curious about it. It has to do with how we go about education and how long have we been doing it this way, you know. There was one in Spain as well, Alhambra. There's one in Cairo. The earliest one I found was in 700 BC in India, Takashila University. So one could say we've been at this education process for quite some time. Another question, how do we get into this seasonal schedule? How do we get into packaging it in little bits of knowledge delivered to the student for use many years later? This one I got the answer to, but somebody out there ought to have it, right? In the interest of my 9 minutes, I'll go ahead with an answer. It really came from the British Industrial Revolution and fitting education to timetables for trains that got their parents back and forth to work. There was a need to do something with children. There was a need known for education, so that system kind of evolved into scheduling learning work as if it were a timetable. All of that is okay, and that's kind of what spawned our current system, which I'm here not to brag about it, but I'm certainly not having any complaints about it. It's certainly what got all of us where we are and to a position of being able to help others in a great way. The difficulty I have with it is where I work in our programs is very, very rural, and that's like Emma said. That's what I call him, Emma. It's so much easier than all the rest of old Jamarai. The system that took itself to Africa had some vestigials that went along with it, like Sarah pointed out. Do we really need to teach about pork in Somalia, right? Those kinds of things. Others were, what's the best schedule for the young African learner? What's the seasonal needs of that learner or his family and community? How do we really adapt that? Let's say that from the beginning it was a very bad fit. Your comment, as well as Dr. Inyang, the post-independence, the post-colonial area saw a severe drop in the government's ability to maintain that education service, which never got to the rural area, to the farm areas where we're doing our work. It never quite got there in a way that it was worth sending my child to school, says the farmer. So we're trying to build something that is, I think, a bridge to a much better way of doing education by combining livelihood skills along with the fundamental education skills. Dr. Moten, you had an excellent term for that. The fundamental learning skills for to enable lifelong learning. That's kind of what we're trying to do in a way that's a little more organic, but certainly complements the formal education system. Now, I think I better click here. Emma? Okay. We're going to talk quickly about learning. I may have to just go through this slide and call it my 9 minutes, right? Oh, we did some of that, right? Quickly, how does learning occur in the brain? All right, you've got that feeling when you don't know the answer to something in your brain, you know what's going on, then some enzymes or something else is being secreted. Glial cells are increasing in population in the brain, and they're looking for a way to get messages from one spot to the answer. When you find that answer, that's when it happened. You get a different kind of chemical reaction in that brain. I got the answer. That happens whether you're asleep, whether you're awake, or whether you're not quite sure what you're doing. Oh. This was my scary Halloween slide, but it's something to look at here. In the post 9/11 era, Donald Rumsfeld came out on a press conference and said, we're not so interested in the number of troops we have anymore. We're more interested in capabilities, our military capabilities. And this is the evolved point. No longer do they speak of or think of the battlefield. And there's a metaphor here I want you to really get for me. Could you read that?
It's a lot of words, Charlie.
All right, I'll read it. They don't think in terms of the battlefield anymore. They think in terms of battle space. This is from the DoD, Department of Defense. The environment, factors, and conditions that must be understood to successfully apply combat power. Protect the force or complete the mission. This includes air, land, sea, space, the included enemy and friendly forces, facilities, weather, terrain. This is my favorite, the electromagnetic sphere. We're not using that, are we? Spectrum. And the information environment within which operational areas and areas of interest. Okay, enough of that one. Why did I put that slide up here? Is there anything we can steal from the idea herein in battle space? Now, we've got an education system. It is the structure, and it's very, very good, been very, very effective. It falls down in some of our remote areas, the last kilometer, last 10 feet. But we may take advantage of this kind of thinking and consider the learning space. Let's delink the structure that education provides from what's really going on with learning and see if we can't bring some things to bear that help better knowledge creation at a level where we have not yet been able to penetrate with our structured education systems. That's kind of what I want to say. And I want to say that it's almost impossible, like our colleagues here have said, for us to expect governments to deliver that today. They can't do it. Who's familiar with EFA and what are our goals? That's enough for any government in Africa to accomplish. Those that do will have done very, very well. And that's what I'm here to tell you, is what the private sector can do. It can imagine. It can bring capacities, or as in Rumsfeld words, capabilities to bear to find out what does work. To see if something will work and develop a replicable, scalable model of what could be rural education in the future. It could be something that is a stopgap measure that gets knowledge creation to occur in young and youthful minds while we build a more effective structure for the system that will eventually serve all. That's what I'm saying the role of the private sector can be. We have a couple other things we can do, and that is any private sector company that works in a sovereign foreign nation has to have a relationship with the government. They have to maintain that, and they have a sometimes more important, a more sincere need to do that than the diplomatic presence in that country, because it's dependent on the flow of the materials from that country, from the farms, the mines, wherever it happens to be, so that there are relationships that can be used to help cooperate with the government, involve the government, so that as a system does rise up, they are part of it. It's sometimes much easier for the private sector to penetrate that governmental structure than NGOs, for example.